down and listen to records. Smell the cover, read all the verses. Tell me about your favorites on Vinyl and Vision.
Hey folks, thanks for tuning in to the latest episode of Vinyl and Vision. Here we are with episode 129. Today's very special guest is Micah Schnabel. Some of you may know Micah as the singer, primary songwriter of the band Two Cow Garage. These days he is primarily a solo singer-songwriter under his own name, Micah Schnabel, and he performs with his partner Vanessa Jean Speckman. He has an album out called The Clown Watched the Clock currently. Micah's a great guy. I've known him for a long time, actually. I used to be in a band. I'm actually rejoined that band recently. But we used to do a lot of touring, and so we used to go through Columbus, Ohio often, and that's where I met him, I believe. I forgot to ask him about that. I forget where we met, but it was probably Columbus. We have toured, or at least played other shows in other cities before, so it's a little blurry. Sorry. But Micah's a great guy. And this conversation today is very candid. I feel like, I consider Micah a friend. And I feel like this conversation was more or less kind of just getting to know Micah better. Because as we say in this episode, it's like, being on tour is a different thing where you have friends and you meet people and you see them regularly. But you never really get to know them. So that's kind of what I did with this conversation. Obviously, there is a topic of the conversation. There's Tom Waits' Nighthawks at the Diner, which is the album Micah chose, which is an interesting choice. Not too much information about that album, really. There's not much out there to begin with, so it's a hard one to talk about. So primarily just kind of relating that album and Tom Waits to Micah and see where that connection lies exactly. So if you're looking for a ton of information about Tom Waits and that album, you're not going to find it here. Sorry. But this is a great conversation with Micah and getting to know him better and his own music and his process and so forth. So I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, all that we ask is that you please do all the things you do with the internet. Like, share, subscribe, comment, rate, review, all of those things. Thank you very much. They helped a tons. And if you care to help us in a financial way, you can always visit our website, psychicstatic.net. Any purchase you make through that website helps fund this show and everything that we do here. So we very much appreciate it. Thank you. Enjoy. Hello, Micah Schnabel.
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing all right. Doing all right.
Glad to finally have you.
Yeah, sorry it took so much to get things together. The new
That-
year is always brutal.
Yeah, the holidays were crazy. I couldn't even think. I just literally, I was trying to do reading and read about Tom Waits and stuff like that. Like I got a few books by him.
hmm
I just couldn't fucking concentrate, man.
Yeah. Since the pandemic, I've been working really hard on trying to get my attention span back.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How so has it suffered, do you feel?
Just everything is so short, man. Same thing, trying to like I read a lot, but was struggling really hard with that. Just
Yeah.
struggling on anything longer form. It's just been brutal.
Really? Even
Yeah.
till now, like you're still working on it?
I'm still working on it. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I also quit drinking. I think drinking helped me concentrate.
Sure. I bet it
So,
does.
I think I was able to read and write longer pieces when I was, a few drinks in. And I've been reading about that. That's apparently kind of a self-medicating ADHD thing, whatever. But
Oh,
yeah, man. So I'm with you, trying to focus for anything more than 3 seconds at a time. It's
yeah.
been brutal.
We are not living in the appropriate generation, man.
Yeah. No. Long
But it's
gone.
good to have you. Good to see you, man.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. How are things on your end? Is it?
I'm still feeling a lot of pressure, still feeling very, very stressed out because I had a show last night
Oh, did you?
and
Where'd you play?
Union Station Brewery.
I
I
don't
played
know
with
that one.
I played with Barn Burning. It's a small brewery really, but they sometimes have shows.
Nice. How was the
Yeah,
show?
it was okay. The bands were
Yeah.
good. The bands were nice. Out of town band from Worcester. I'm sorry. Yeah, Worcester. And then another local band, just a duo. An acoustic night for the most part.
Okay.
And I'm with Barn Burning again. So that's interesting to be back there after like
Welcome
a
back.
16-year hiatus, man. And now
Yeah.
I'm back in. It's weird.
Yeah.
I'm like the
How to,
newbie but the veteran at the same time.
right, right. How's it feel to be back
I
in the
like it.
music world in general?
The music world in general, I mean, it's great to be part of the community again and just
Hmm.
like have things to look forward to. I was just thinking about this last night. Like, isn't it weird being in a band because it's like you're constantly living in the future
Hmm.
because you're always having to think ahead. It's just like, well, what's my next show going to be? And like, how far ahead do you have to plan for that? I mean, like, we're booking shows like 2, 3 months in advance.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know what life would look like without, like, I mean, that's what December and January, mostly January. That's especially with touring, like, it's always the big booking month, and that's all I've been doing all month.
Right,
And
right.
that's
And
why
if you're
things have been so hectic.
right, I bet. Yeah. I mean, because I'm only trying to like I'm helping out this band from New York, like just book a weekend. And
Yeah,
just that, just a weekend, I'm just like, holy fuck. These people
dude.
like constant emails, constant texts, constant calling, and then like he's doing a lot of the legwork, the guy in New York. Like he's kind of like
Uh,
reaching out to bands and stuff, trying to build out the bill. But just on my end, I'm like trying to figure it out and trying to like keep in touch with him, just being like, okay, yeah, okay, we're all set here. This is good. Like, let's move on to this date. Like what have you got and all that stuff. It's just so much
right.
work.
No, I mean, yeah, we just booked the parlor for May in Providence.
Oh, you did?
Like,
Cool.
yeah, last week, but it's like, and back like 16 years ago, the club would fill out the bills, and like, because
Right.
they know who the locals are and stuff. But now that's not a thing. So it's like you've got to get the hold, and then you have to find people to play, and hopefully you know somebody. And
Right.
it's
And hopefully you
so
find those
nuts.
bands before the hold runs out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just
Exactly.
like I feel like we're like running against the clock. Like just yesterday, I was just like, okay, wait, so do we still have that hold for the 16th? And he's just like, yeah, but they want like 3 verified locals. And I'm like,
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
right. Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
that sucks.
I
Well, your
know.
network must be pretty huge in that case because you do your own booking, right?
Unfortunately, yeah, and it is, but it's still really difficult. So I couldn't imagine like a younger acts trying to do this stuff because like
Right.
I struggle with it, and I do have a large network just from being old.
Right, right. I mean, but just like you tour constantly. I mean, how many dates
Yeah,
do you think you're doing currently? Like a year?
man, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, especially with booking ourselves. Last year we did 85. Um, I would love to get to 100 this year, but when you're
Hmm.
booking yourself, especially if it's just in the US, getting more than 100 in the US, like we need to get Europe into play until we get up into the 125
Yeah.
regions.
Well, how like close in the periphery do you feel that is?
I'm hoping later this year. I hope later this year, yeah. I'm
Oh,
hoping
good.
we can we're talking to folks and trying to like we know we could book it ourselves. We've done that before, Vanessa and I, but we trying to get an agent to at least help us
Yeah,
get some
yeah.
anchors down or something.
Sure, sure. I mean, all the help, possible, really. I mean, because it's
Every
such a
single bit.
yeah. I mean, like it sounds luxurious to say like you have a manager or a booking agent and stuff like that, but at the same time, it's just like that how much just like bandwidth that must free up in your brain to just be like, okay, you got that. Just tell me where to be and when to be there.
God, that sounds like a dream. An absolute
You've never
dream.
had that in like your whole career, like all of the
We
2 cal?
have we've had agents here and there, but we never were popular enough that we were anybody's top priority or even like
Oh,
top
yeah.
five priority. So we would, a lot of times we did end up a couple of times we ended up with like good agents, but they have big bands that they make their money on. And we were just the like low afterthought. They saw us
Yeah.
a couple of times and liked us, and that's cool, but there's no real fruit coming from it. It wasn't like shows were just running in. It was like
Hmm.
having to knock on their door and remind them like, hey, you're still doing this, right? Like, so
Yeah.
yeah, never got to the point where shows were just coming in and we could just show up and go do the thing. So
Right. Wild. Okay. Well, speaking of some of the past, let's go deep past for a little while because I'd really love to.
yeah.
I'm surprised that we've never really actually had an opportunity to have a long conversation, Like
Right.
we've seen each other on tour and stuff like that, passing and sharing bills, but like you don't really kind of I don't know how much you grasped from those days. I've grasped nothing. I've like my memory's horrible.
Oh no. I mean it's a funny thing with doing this, right? It's like we do. There are people that we both know that we've been doing this for 20, 25 years, and you spend this like very concentrated time together.
Yeah.
So it's like you know somebody pretty well, but also don't know them at all.
Right.
Like, you know, I have some of my best friends that I've probably spent less than 10 hours total together, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Tour friends, tour buddies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's great. It's great to have them spread out all over the country. So whenever you end up there, you have somebody to you can hopefully rely on to just be there, just hang out with.
Yeah. 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 It's nice.
Um, yeah. But so where are you now? In California?
Yeah. Yeah. Vanessa's from out here. So we came out here for the holidays and then just kind of spending the rest of, we leave next week. So fly back to to Ohio and uh, February kicks in, shows start kicking in a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, just spending
Oh,
that January out here.
cool. That's nice.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. So you kind of have you have a couple of home bases to work out of.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, we're just staying here at our parents' house. We're not wealthy individuals or anything.
Yeah. Hey, neither.
But it's nice to not be in the freezing cold for a minute before we head back into Midwestern winter.
Endless summer, man. Just like kind of constantly following
Yeah,
the good weather.
yeah, yeah. That's the goal.
Yeah. And that's where you're from, right? Ohio? Born,
Yeah,
raised?
yeah, yep, yep. From or yeah, from Ohio, rural Ohio, not Columbus, but I've been in Columbus since 2000. So
Yeah. You were born when?
82. So I'm
Oh, okay.
42 years old.
Yeah. All right.
How about you? Where are
I
you
got a
at?
44. Got a couple years on
44.
me. Yeah,
Okay.
I was born in 80. Nice even number.
Oh
Very,
yeah, yeah.
very easy to calculate and keep track of.
Yeah, I feel like those years only matter when you're like 12 and 10 or something.
Yeah.
42 and 44 are the same age.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, we essentially essentially the same. Um, but so yeah, 82 in Ohio, and like you were just lived your whole life there.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And so, what was your family life like? I mean, I actually feel like I kind of know your family life. I feel like actually your songs are very autobiographical in a sense. Like you've kind of laid out your whole history in your songs, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's all pretty much laid out right there. I didn't know you could, and I guess this is interesting. This ties in. Like I didn't know you could kind of really do it any other way, and hence we're talking about the Tom Waits record that is not autobiographical.
Right.
It kind of broke my brain open into doing this. But yes, all of my work, even now, is still autobiographical. And that first record was about leaving the small town, and you could pretty much march those records right up till now.
Right. Right. And you by first records, you're talking about Two Cow,
Yeah, yeah,
right? But then all of your solo work still is also the same. It's all kind of like
yeah,
your life in words and song.
yeah, yeah. Pretty much, pretty much. It's always been my way of kind of speaking to the world. So I don't know if I have
Hmm.
a different really lens. I know for a lot of people it's escapism or exploring different things. For me, it was always just like trying to say my little piece to the world before I die.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to get into that a little in more depth, probably as we kind of continue and talk more about this
Yeah.
record. But yeah, growing up in the house, I mean, what was that like for you?
Just difficult. I wasn't good at being a kid. I don't. My parents weren't really into being parents, you know. So I had siblings and stuff, but they were full. They were both factory workers. You know, one doing 3 to 11, the other one doing 11 to 7.
Yeah.
So the kids were just kind of around, and the parents were just not really. They were just doing their thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
so it's difficult, you know. And I just wasn't good at being young, and I was just kind of scared all the time and
Hmm.
then of the world, you know, and I didn't understand it. Then, yeah, so once I just knew I needed to get out of the small town thing because I saw what it was and I wasn't interested in it.
Yeah.
That's not. Some people like that small, very small community kind of thing. It's not my thing. I like to be in a big space with lots of people doing different things,
Sure.
different kinds of people. I feel more comfortable with that. So I moved to the city, turned 18, moved to Columbus, and yeah, growing up was just difficult. I was not good at being young. I
Yeah.
didn't enjoy it.
It was
And
because I mean, your parents are kind of were disenfranchised from you for the most part, just because they were working all the time.
yeah, it just parenthood. I don't think was their thing. They're good
Well,
people. We get
yeah.
along great. I love them. Uh, I think they probably fall. I don't, and I say all this to them, so like them hearing this wouldn't be a shock or anything. Like they
Hmm.
didn't really want to be parents. They did it because that's what everybody was doing. They ended up being parents, and
Yeah.
they got through it. Um, you know, not with like without blowing everybody in each other up, but
Right. Were they
but we
like
got
were they
through it.
really young parents? Did they like have
Yeah,
kids as teens?
my mom was like 17 when she had my sister, and
Okay.
then 20 when she had me, and then she's 23 when she had my younger brother. So she was 23 years old with three kids. My dad would have
Yeah.
been like 28 or something like that, 27, 28. So it was just
Right.
chaotic and not great for
Yeah, yeah.
humans.
And I mean, it's just like, it happens with impoverished families, right? I mean, like I'm living it now. I mean, I have two kids and living pretty much at the poverty line. I mean, I wouldn't say
Uh,
that I'm dirt poor, but we're
right.
scraping by
Yeah,
like
yeah.
like everybody else in this
Yeah,
country.
yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and so it's hard because you feel like you have to be working all the time. Like, we are fairly fortunate where, my wife and I work separate schedules, kind of, I guess, sounding kind of like your parents, where, we work opposite schedules so that
Right,
somebody can
right.
always be home with the kids.
Right, right.
But, I also have these hustles where I'm just like, podcasting and practicing for bands and
Hmm.
booking, obviously helping people book shows and shit. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a little like, I'm a little occupied, but my kids are also teens now. They're not kids, they're not little ones anymore.
Right, right. That's huge, right? They can kind of
And
look after themselves, at least for the basic necessities and needs.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we're still here for like dinner and stuff. Like, I do all that stuff with them. And
Yeah,
obviously
yeah.
I carve out time to just be like, okay, let's go hang, let's go do something that you're interested in doing. And, you
Right.
know, unfortunately they don't like shows. Like if you like shows, we'd be hanging out every single night of the week, man. It's
Right, right. Oh,
but yeah, they don't really do that. Actually, my
gosh.
youngest likes classical music, it
Oh,
turns out.
really?
Yeah, it's so
That's
weird.
a nice thing.
It is
Maybe
super
they got the
nice.
money making side of the brain.
I don't know, maybe. I hope so. He seems pretty motivated. Like he's crazy. He's really smart, really smart. He like really loves he where he used to really love reading, but now ever since he got his computer, he's like on that all the time.
Right, right.
But
Yeah.
he's scheming. He's trying to figure out how to make money. He's just like, the whole YouTube thing or like building games or whatever. That's kind of what he's into.
And do you think that's a common thing with? I mean, it has to be that is soaked into
The
to
kids?
children, yeah, the kids, because
Oh
like
yeah.
everything's a hustle. And what a choice do we have? You know?
Well, I mean, I think that kids unfortunately just feel like they want to be famous, and they think it's so easy. They're just like, oh, I just have to put up videos on YouTube, and then I'm good.
Right,
My followers will
right.
start just rolling in. The
Yeah,
numbers will start
yeah.
adding up,
Uh-huh.
which it
Yeah.
doesn't. It's not. It's actually
No.
pretty hard.
Right, right.
So that's
And
the
just a
the
little peek behind the curtain. Most people that we think are famous all came from wealthy families.
yeah, right. They had the advantages. They had the
Mhm.
connections, or they had the the money to put towards, you know, paying those agents, paying those managers or
Uh-huh.
whatever, getting those classes and, and,
Yeah.
and all that shit. It's
Or
like,
they're just the time to dedicate themselves to it because they didn't have to worry about scraping a living.
right. Yeah. Yeah. It's huge, man.
Yeah.
This,
That's the lesson I had to learn the hard way.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and we're still learning. I mean, there's so much to learn, really,
Yeah.
obviously, right?
Yeah. I mean, I remember the first time because like with Tucow and it's obviously still in solo stuff, like we've never had any money. And Tucow started touring, none of us even had a bank account, let alone a credit card or something. And I remember a
Right.
friend of ours, a friend of ours, they were like, "Oh, well, we got the band credit line." I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about? A credit line?" They're
For
like,
the
"Well, yeah, so
band.
you can, yeah, it's like, so yeah,
Uh,
so we could, get the t-shirts printed and start the tours and stuff, and we don't have to worry about having that cash up front." I'm like, "Well, I didn't know that was a thing that anybody could do." You know, financial
right.
literacy. I had no clue.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so like
Um,
band account as in like you would actually have a bank account, like a credit card dedicated for the band, or like
yeah, like
just
just a credit line, and
yeah.
the friend they had that because they were smart and probably grew up in a family where that was a normal thing to have a credit line for your business.
Right,
you
right.
know I had
Yeah.
no clue that that even existed. I thought you made $8 and then you paid your bills from that $8. Like,
Yeah.
there's a whole
Well,
grift.
yeah, no, I mean it's something it's a learning curve, man. But I mean, so because you like when Two Cows started, you were in your late
Mm,
teens, it seems.
19, yeah. Yeah, first record came out when I was 20, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty young still. I mean, so it makes sense that you wouldn't really have any kind of idea of like how money and credit and all that shit
Yeah.
works really, for the most part. And what
Yeah.
were your intentions like when you started that band, do you think?
It was just the only thing I wanted to do. Like, it was the only focus. I mean, I was working at a pizza place, but it was the writing songs and the band was a 100% full-time focus. And I was like, I had no idea how to do it. So it just, I mean, I guess that's kind of like the nice thing of being a big beginner is you have no preconceived notions or anything. So it's just like,
Right.
back then we were sending burnt CDRs to clubs and asking them if we could play, and playing
Yeah.
every place that we could possibly play. Um,
Hmm.
and that was music was the only thing that made any sense to me at all. I worked at a pizza place, and that's the only thing I've really done. I worked at a pizza place when I was 18 to 23 or 24.
Right.
Um, and then have done this. Now I'm
Right, right.
42 and I'm realizing I have no life skills, um, which is difficult.
Well, I mean, you
you
kind of
know,
do because I mean, you have the music business experience. I mean, like, call it what you will, and like, you can. I think that it's building towards something. So, obviously, you want to be a performer and a writer first and foremost. But
Mhm.
I mean, realistically, I mean, you could get into the business. I mean, you could get into, whatever,
Right,
publicity management, booking management, like
right.
any of that stuff, really. I mean, if you really wanted to, obviously it's not,
Well,
you
that
know,
sounds like hell, James.
it is hell, but jobs are hell. There's no easy job.
Right, right.
And it's this
Uh,
business, right? This business is just gonna fucking eat you up, like no matter
yeah,
what.
right, right. I do think that's one that the advantage of never hitting to like the level of success of having the agents and managers and stuff is obviously I've taken plenty of hits from doing this, but they've kind of all been my own chosen ones, and I haven't been like ground down by the business, because I've
Hmm.
always worked pretty outside of it. And you know, when we come through, we play with you guys. You know what I mean? Like, and yes, the career is small, but I haven't taken a lot of the business hits that I know people take really hard and get beat ground down in that industry.
Yeah.
So I think I'm definitely probably a little more fresh faced still at 42 than probably a lot of people that have been turned through the grinder, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that's good to know. It's good that you have a healthy outlook towards your career, really, you know?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Some days. But
Yeah.
to talk to me at 12:30, you'll see how I
Yeah,
feel.
right. Yeah, I think it's moment to moment, really.
Mhm.
Um, So I mean, like, let's see. Maybe I'd like to really talk about your relationship with music for a while. Obviously, you're passionate about it. But as a fan and as a kid growing up listening to music, I mean, what was like some of the first stuff you remember hearing?
So I've been revisiting this a lot. It's interesting. So I fell in love. So obviously we're pretty much the same age, but I fell in love with music in general, with hip hop, and
Hmm.
specifically the hip hop that was being played on MTV when I was 11. You know what I mean, 10 to 13, something like that. Like, that was the
Yeah.
first music that hit me that hit me in that way. When musical people find music,
Right.
that was the stuff that hit me,
Hmm.
because that was accessible. That's what was accessible to me. And then, so that was just a couple of years of really enjoying that, but being super young, so not knowing really why or anything. And then, about I was 14, I kind of got hit with 13, 14. I started to really get into playing music, and I started to learn to play guitar a little bit. And my dad brought home this record that he had just bought at the the local music store, and it was a guy from our town, our small town, had moved to the city. His band had just signed to Polydor.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
so he brought home this record, and he was like, "Hey, this guy's from here." And I put the record in, and I think all musical people have that moment of like transformation. Like for whatever reason, that record right then, and the band is called Big Back 40. The record was called Bested. It's called Bested. And I put it in. I remember literally sitting cross-legged in front of the old CD players, the family stack of like the CD player with the receiver and the
Oh
whole
yeah,
thing,
yeah,
and just sitting there and listening to this record and just being transfixed. They're just like changed as a person. It was that my musical awakening. I'm just
yeah,
like, what is like, okay, so this guy's from where I'm from. He's writing these songs about where I'm from. Like I didn't know that you could do that, you know? And
right.
I listened to that record like three times through just sitting in front of the speakers. And that was like the life-changing moment for me. That was like
Hmm.
that all focus because up to that point I was a sports person and that was, you know, and then I think my brain knew like you're not that great at sports, bud. You're going to need to do something else. And my brain, changed the camera
Yeah.
um, to music. And in that moment, I became a different person. I remember when I stood up after hearing that record for the first three times, I was like, everything had changed.
Yeah.
Um,
What was the name of that record of that band again?
the band is called Big Back 40, and
Big Back 40.
the record is called Bested.
Okay.
Um,
And they were on Polydor, so that's like, they were a major label.
yeah, they put out a major label record at the same time. I think they got, crushed by the Wallflowers
Oh
because
yeah. Was it?
they were a similar in vein and came out at the exact same time. And
Yeah.
what are you going to do to compete with Jacob Dylan? And you know what I
Talk about
mean?
a
At
guy that
that
had
age.
everything handed to him. And
Uh,
whatever. I mean, those. I mean, the Wallflowers is okay. I mean, it's all right. I don't think I've ever
I
listened.
love the Wallflowers. I do. I
Yeah.
love them.
I don't think I've
I
listened
love
to
them.
an entire album, but I mean, like he can write a song. Those are good
Oh
songs.
hell yeah, yeah. Love those songs. Love his songwriting.
Yeah.
But yeah, but just yeah, that was my life changing musical moment, and from then on, music
Mm.
became my focus.
So I mean, like that style of music being like, obviously early '90s alternative kind of singer-songwriter-ish style of music. I mean, do you think that that's kind of why you started writing songs the way you started writing?
Definitely. I learned every single song on the record. That's how I learned how to play guitar. Was the like he has the songwriter Sean has a very specific kind of palm muted style that he does, and that's how I know how to play guitar because I learned every single song on that record, um, and still know them to this day. Still play through those songs,
Hmm.
but yeah, so it affected me to my core. To the entire thing that I do started in that moment. Writing, I think the autobiographical songs, whether they were really autobiographical for him or not, I don't know. But that's
Right.
how I learned to write a song was from that record. So that's how I know how to write a song because of those songs on
And
that.
and so you started writing as soon as you started learning, basically?
Yes, and started turning those into an English class, as the trying to write songs and see if they would
Hmm.
pass.
Yeah. And so what about that hip hop influence? I mean, if you were listening to that first, like as a kid before you find this album, I mean, did,
It's
did that have any influence on like what you do or how
you
the
know
way you think about music?
it didn't for a long time, or at least not that I noticed. It was really like the camera change. Like I loved hip hop, and then like the camera changed to this Americana whatever thing that I had just discovered, and because it
Hmm.
made sense to me, and that's where I was. It talked about where I was from and stuff like that, so I connected it on that personal level. And then here in the last like 5 years, the love of hip hop has really come back into full swing for me, and I've gone back in and just dug back in and rediscovered it and how found how much I love it and learning more about hip hop and where it came from and how it came to be where it is now. Um,
Hmm.
and it's really come like pushing to the forefront in the last like 2 or 3 years, lyrically. and musically. And I know I'm just, dude with an acoustic guitar, but I think my brain has just naturally started to think about the guitar as the beat, and
Hmm.
then the lyrics, this separate thing going over top of the beat, and definitely falling more into hip hop flows and rhyme schemes, I think. Not that I'm rapping, but just in the lyric writing and the
Yeah.
speaking and cadence of everything, I think it's definitely moving towards that
Yeah.
big
I,
time.
I noticed you have a lot of words per uh like per beat in your songs.
And that was Nighthawks at the Diner was a big change in that.
Yeah. When did
Hearings.
you when did you hear that record?
Uh, I think it must have been. I think it was shortly after I wrote the song "Boys Be Girls" for the seventh Two Cow record. So it would have been like 2015,
Hmm.
2014, 2015. We were at our friend Eric's house up in Western New York, and Two Cow had played Buffalo the night before, and I think we were going to Providence the next door.
Okay.
So the next morning we're having coffee, and he had the Nighthawks at the Diner record on, and I had never dug Tom Waits. I hadn't gotten it. I didn't get it.
Yeah.
For whatever reason that morning in his living room, I was like, "What record is this?" He's like, "Nighthawks at the Diner, Tom Waits." And there, it's for whatever reason, it hit my ears. You have those moments where you've heard
Right.
something a million times or heard of something, and then you have that moment for whatever reason it just clicks. And Nighthawks at the Diner was playing, and it just clicked. And I was like, "Oh, he's just." At the moment, I was like, "Oh, he's just talking." But then you obviously dig in, and he's painting these pictures of,
Hmm.
uh, yeah, yeah. He's creating these whole, where like a novella, short stories every 3, 4 minutes, and it's
Right.
very loose in arrangement. It's not really like they're not like a hard verse, chorus, verse songs or something like that. Like the song
Yeah.
structure is pretty, like not non-existent, but pretty loose of what it
Well,
is.
one of the first things that I realized about this record after like reading about it and learning more about it is that it's a jazz record,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
I never thought of it before. I mean, I've heard this record before, and I've been a fan of
yeah.
Tom Waits for a long time. I've never thought of consider this album of his specifically is the only album that sounds like this, basically.
Right,
But it
right.
is ostensibly a jazz record.
Yeah, and that's what obviously I went through the phases of falling in love with that record, and yeah, like so he had the songs that wasn't. They just kind of went out and hired the great jazz guys in the neighborhood of Los Angeles at that moment,
Right.
and just kind of put it all together. Like it was a jazz record. It's not like they
Mhm.
all sat down and knew what the arrangements and put it all together, put the songs together in a tight structure. Like they rented out this studio and created a jazz club inside the studio and invited people and everything,
Right.
and
Yeah.
created that moment to make it sound and feel like it does. I
Right.
mean, it's almost like a movie scene that
Yeah.
they created, and
Right.
the soundtrack to it is an unbelievable record that he made.
Yeah. And it's so weird because I remember like so you were never a Tom Waits fan prior to hearing this record and having it click.
No, I think that was my entry into Tom Waits.
Wow. That's a weird entry point. I mean, especially considering like, the style of music that you write. I mean, like you're saying this was 2015, Two Cow has already been a band for many years by this point,
Yeah,
14 years approximately, I think.
yeah,
You already released a number of records. You were working on
hmm,
your seventh record, you said?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I mean, like, you're already well experienced in songwriting and performing, and so now, and you were never a Tom Waits fan.
No, I had heard it because Shane would play it in the van, and I was like, whatever. And when you don't, if you don't know Tom Waits, like especially, and I think again with our age, just because of the Tom Waits songs we would have been hearing
Yeah,
at our age, like he was starting to go pretty far out at that point in time, which I
right.
love now. But if you're
Yeah.
not a Tom Waits fan, it can sound kind of cartoony.
Hmm.
So the cartooniness, because I didn't know about him, it felt cartoony to me, and I was like, get out of here with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It was a little weird. It was a little grating, I think, at first. I think Mule Variations was my intro to Tom Waits in
That
when that came out, like early 90s or mid 90s or something like that.
right, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and if your ears aren't tuned into it, it can, yeah. And
Yeah.
mine were not. I was like, get that out of the CD player, Shane.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I was never a big fan. I mean, I liked it a little bit, and then I don't know. I can't. I feel like that was like Tom Waits is one of those bands where, I heard him as a teen, like a late teen,
Mhm.
and maybe wasn't totally sold on it, but I was just like, all right, everyone's telling me I need to listen to this dude. Let me go to the record store and let me buy a record.
Mhm.
And I think I bought Small Change.
Oh yeah, yeah, love that one.
So
Yeah, yeah.
that's when, I mean, I fucking, and that was it for me. I was just like, oh, this guy's a fucking genius and he's super
Right,
sad
right.
and I love it. And that record came right after this one. Chronologically, Small Change comes out after Nighthawks
Oh,
for the
did it
Tide.
really?
Yeah, right after.
That's so cool.
I mean, and so that's why you can kind of hear it. I mean, like, we're not talking about the record yet, but I mean, like, um, somewhere down this track listing, I can't remember exactly what
Right.
song. It's what ends up becoming one of the songs on Small Change.
You're absolutely right. I can't think of the riff. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I want to say that it's Nighthawk Postcards from Easy Street, maybe.
Huh.
I think it's probably that song. And then
That's
which
really
ends up
interesting.
becoming I can't remember the name of that song on Small Change. It's
I'm not,
Tom Schubert's Blues or something like
so,
that.
oh
Or
yeah, 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 yeah.
I don't know. I'll get to it
Yeah, yeah.
eventually. I'll find it. But I mean, but yeah, I noticed it immediately. I was just like, this is that progression that's in that
Right,
song.
right. It was
So
all working. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah.
I didn't know
So
that.
yeah, I was happy to get into this album because I mean, I'm a Tom Waits fan now. I definitely love all of his material. I love all of the eras of him as well.
Same, same. Again, it's so funny when like your ears aren't tuned, aren't into something. It can just sound like noise. And then
Yeah,
for whatever reason, you turn that head, make that turn on it, and now I'm like, oh, I love every single noise that he makes.
pretty much. Yeah. I mean, because they're so different. I mean, like from his first record, Closing Time, which like
Hmm.
when I put that one on, I was just like, whoa, this is not Tom Waits.
Right, right, right. Not the
You
one
know?
that we knew. Yeah, just because of our age range, like that's not the Tom Waits that we got introduced to. And then
Right.
you go back and like, yeah,
It's
and
like he
that's
doesn't
just an
sound the same. He sounds totally
yeah,
different. It was
yeah,
wild.
yeah. But that constant evolution too of like love, just
Right,
never
right.
sitting still in a sound, which he, obviously any artist that finds success early, it's an easy trap to just try to recreate the same thing over and over again.
Hmm.
He did not do that.
No, not at all. Very much, changes album to album for the most
Yeah,
part.
yeah,
Um, so let's see. So 2015-ish, you think it was that you
yeah.
got turned on to this record. You're obviously already well established as a singer and songwriter. So I mean, like aside from it grabbing you, like, and you kind of maybe making that connection that's like, oh shit, Tom Waits, wow, this guy's fucking
Mhm.
great. Um, like what else was happening at that moment? Like, I mean, like do you like you got this record and like picked up a copy for yourself or where did you go, exploring Tom Waits wise?
I think I remember we got home from that tour, and I put on that record, and so that would have been at the time. Yeah, I put on that record, and I would have started work on would have been starting the initial work on my first novel, Hello, My Name is Henry.
Hmm.
Um, but just really early on, rough sketches. Maybe that's part of where I fell so in love with this record because that would be playing in the background when I was starting to work on the book.
Hmm.
And Tom Waits was a big record in that uh, when I was writing that book. I've never pieced that all together until talking about this now. But yeah, that was why I
Yeah.
was listening to Tom Waits while writing that first book. Was
Oh,
because I had just discovered him.
right.
Dang.
Wild.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's really interesting.
huh. Well, so I mean, and this album, I mean, it's so unique in that, now we obviously, I think everyone even listening now will probably have some experience with Tom Waits and probably agree that they like him
Right.
and a lot of his work. But I mean, when you were talking about this record, as far as like what you know about it, I mean, you're right. It was recorded in a recording studio but they built out the studio to be essentially like a jazz club. So they had
Right.
tables and chairs and like, candles on the tables with nuts and chips and shit or whatever.
Right. Right.
Everyone's getting drinks, like they were serving people drinks in the studio.
Yeah.
And that
They
like,
set the mood, and
right,
it worked. Rarely do, does a record label's big idea actually work, but like it worked. It feels exactly like they wanted it to be, and as I'm sure Tom wanted it to be. It
right,
sounds
right.
like you're
Well, because the
sitting
idea
at a
was
jazz
that
club.
the label guys knew because they were fans of Tom Waits. Obviously, they're putting out his records. They want him to succeed, but they realized that there was an element that wasn't being captured on his previous records, which was
Right.
like his personality that he would kind of exude when performing.
Right.
So
Right.
it was a weird concept to, have a new artist who was not successful. I mean, like when this record was being made, I mean, he was not selling tickets and not selling records. I mean, he was getting opportunities, but just not anywhere
Right.
near where
Right.
he is now. But
I've never put the record in that context with that before, but that's
well, and
really
it's
interesting
a
to think
live
about.
record. It's his third studio record. It's a
Yeah.
double album and it's a live record.
That sounds like the kiss of death for any artist.
Right,
But
right. And then to be so, I mean, and then it's like, and it's not even like the first two records.
right.
So
Right.
it's kind of, I don't know, like he was definitely putting it all out there in a weird way, like kind of not, I don't know, how do you say it? Like, kind of, shooting the breeze or like throwing in the wind, like just kind of seeing what'll happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And a bit of swinging for the fences too. Like that's a lot of money and a lot of thing to drop on
Yeah,
into this idea. But it worked.
it
And
works.
putting him in that context and almost allowing uh at least early on, whatever, allowing there to be an audience, an audible audience to receive these things that he's saying.
Yeah,
Because there's almost like not in a dismissive way, but like almost a stand-up comedy to it.
right,
Whereas you need to hear that audience reaction in order for it to finish. So it's not just somebody talking into a microphone. There needs to be
right,
that fulfilling the connecting the circle there to
right, right.
emotionally grab it. And with this record, with the setting up at the nightclub, at the studio, and everything, like it's perfect. It works perfectly.
Yeah, yeah. But so another like other weird things about the record, so he put together a band, the band was, created, they put them
Right.
together. It's not like Tom found these guys, out of years of like playing
Yeah.
together.
Right.
They're all like serious session jazz musicians, and they only had like 4 days. Like
Yeah.
I think they only had like 4 days of prep.
Right. So they're
So
just loose jazz arrangements
pretty
that
much,
he's
yeah, yeah,
talking over. Right.
right.
Mostly. Right.
Except like so the weird thing that I didn't grasp, like I read a bunch of books, not entirely, but definitely within this era of the making of this record. And there's never any like clear like account of like what like how this happened exactly. But I mean, like Tom Waits doesn't explain his songwriting process. But like supposedly nothing was written. So nothing's written. You got four guys in a room. Like you're trying to get them to play these songs, but nothing is written down. And there's session musicians, so these guys, probably want charts.
Right. Right.
But they managed to put it together, and they sound like a band that's been on tour for years.
Right. Right. Well, that sounds like Tom bullshitting itself because there has to be something to play around. I'm guessing he
Right.
had the songs and but I mean, it is loose jazz arrangements. It sounds like the four folks knew each other but showed up at the thing, and
Right.
it's
Unless Tom was like in like the practice room and like was playing everything for them, either on guitar or piano, and just being like, "This is how it goes." Like, just kind of come in, and this is where I
and
change into this part or whatever. I don't know, but it still seems like so challenging.
huge, huge, and like the chances for failure so high. Like everything about it, it should have failed. It
Right.
shouldn't have worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
How and why did it work? Like obviously,
Right.
I don't know. All the pieces came together at the right time because
Right.
any small thing could have thrown the entire project in the trash can, and we wouldn't have that record wouldn't exist.
Right.
We
Well,
could very easily be one of those records where it's like, oh yeah, there's that lost Tom Waits record that only a few people have heard because they tried to do this thing and it failed.
right. Hmm. You know what I really want to see?
What's that?
So when they recorded this record, they did 2 nights, 4 shows. So 2 shows a night. I want to see the 4 album version of this record where they actually release every show like in its entirety.
Right,
That
right.
would be fucking cool to like hear
That,
all of the takes on all 4 nights or all 4 shows.
and that has to exist, right? That would
I
be.
don't
I
think
can't believe
so.
that hasn't.
I don't think
Like,
it's out.
well, no, but it would have to. Somebody's got the tape,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. But I want them to
That,
release it.
yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, they had, and they Tom references it at one point, but there was an opener that was, I believe, a burlesque show
Duwana.
to
Yeah.
open the show to get the right vibe for it.
Yeah. Set the mood.
Yeah. So yeah, the tapes for this are sitting somewhere, and I would love to go through and listen to those from
I
all those
mean,
shows.
someone's got to be like, dropping this in somebody's ear that has access to those tapes, been like, how can we get this released? Like, people
Right.
want to hear that.
Absolutely. I mean, every single Tom Waits fan is going to love to hear every single moment of that and
Yeah.
how the whole thing shook down.
Right. Because I mean, just because
Mm,
it's cool the way it's a great album. It flows. But I mean, I'd love to see how they did every take, especially considering it's like it's mostly improv. Mostly. I mean, like
right.
there's some structure there for sure. But I mean, guys that are pro musicians, but given 4 days to essentially throw this together.
Right.
It's got to be there's got to be some shit on there.
And again, so much of it is not traditional song structure. So it's not like
Yeah.
they can have their charts and be like, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, outro.
Yeah.
It's like it's a pretty loose situation happening again.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's like a miracle that the whole thing got pulled off with
Hmm.
the beauty that it did.
Yeah. One day, I think probably when Tom Waits dies, they'll release that. They'll
Yeah,
release
that's probably
everything will get released eventually.
yeah, yeah. You're right.
Um, let's see. So I want to actually ask you some pretty interesting questions. I have some information about Tom Waits, probably more about him more so than this record. It was kind of
Hmm.
hard to find really good information about this, but there's something that I feel like you guys share. Okay, so like you and Tom Waits
Hmm.
kind of putting you guys together. I'm just like, um, you guys have this distinguishable vocal style. You know,
Hmm.
so in the book Song Noir by Alex Harvey, there's a quote from Paul Body, the troubadour doorman of the early days, and
All right.
he said, "quote When he went to Europe, something happened. When he came back, it was different. He caught a cold or something, and after that, the voice was forever gravelly. The sweet voice that's on Closing Time and Heart of Saturday Night was gone." End quote. So, what can you attribute your vocal style to?
Oh, nodules on my vocal cords.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Like I remember going to the doctor when I was like, it would have been like probably 11 or 12 or something, and them doing the whole thing. They'd be like, well, as long as you're not going to be a singer for a living, you'll be fine.
and and this was before you obviously even learned music.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was just a little kid going to the doctor and they went through the whole thing. But yeah, yeah. So I think that's what that is. My voice just when I yell and press it, it breaks up.
Yeah.
It's not ideal. You
How does it
know?
feel in that case? I mean, like when you sing, because obviously, you sing for hours a night and push yourself. So
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't it's fine. I don't, knock on wood. Well, this changed after the pandemic, but up to the pandemic, my voice I should knock on wood because I don't want to still whatever, but like especially out
knocking.
with the band, like after like 3 or 4 shows, my voice always got stronger and it
Hmm.
would strengthen. Uh yeah, and get stronger. And now I think after the pandemic, I don't know if it's age or anything, but I definitely start to feel it more.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
maybe it's again with the subconscious thing, a lot of the songs, especially with what Vanessa and I are doing in solo, are mostly speaking with a bit of yelling, but
Yeah.
obviously not yelling over a band, so it's not to a
Uh,
point where I have to
yeah.
go figure it out or something.
Right. Right. You don't have to
But
strain yourself so much.
yeah, the Tom Waits thing is really interesting because I've read some of the interviews and stuff where says that he went to see a doctor and a vocal coach or something in New York City and basically had to figure out how to sing differently. But then Dylan pulled the same shit. So I don't know if these guys are just full of shit or what their deal is. You know what
Well,
I mean? It's
Tom
like
definitely tells a tale. I mean, like that. I don't know if there's anything you can take, straight from him.
exactly. So who knows? You know, he's obviously a super talented, super smart guy.
Yeah,
He might have just seen the reaction to the gravel voice and been like, "Oh, that's an into this persona." You know,
right,
that fits this persona that I'm doing
right.
much more than, like you said, the voice on the first couple of records that is more golden throaty. You know.
Yeah, but I don't think he could do that. Like, I mean, even at this time, at the recording of Nighthawks at the Diner, I mean, I don't think that he would be able to just get that clean
Yeah.
sound that he had on the first two records.
Right. Like
I
that.
mean, and
That's true
something
of that.
happened. Like this guy was saying, like he caught a cold or something when he went on tour in Europe, and when he came back, it was just gone, and he was just
Right.
this weird gravelly dude now.
Right.
You know?
But I mean, if he it does like a lot of times, like he's singing with a lot of strain on those early first couple records. There's a lot of strain, and at the top of his register,
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
one small thing, like can change the game. In that maybe again, he's never gonna
Well,
say. So
a
who
lot of
knows?
drinking, a lot of smoking too.
Yeah, I never heard.
No, it just adds the patina to the voice.
Right, right, right.
Let's see another interesting connection I feel you might have with Tom Waits comes from this quote from again the book Song Noir by Alex Harvey. He says, quote, to be a good songwriter, he claimed it was necessary to be something of a private investigator, keeping your anonymity so that you can go anywhere, any part of town, and sit in a corner like a professional eavesdropper. From his earliest days, he's written down snatches of overheard conversation from bars, diners, and pizza joints. Touring exposed him to the worn lived-in textures of American lives. If one if one was to write with any depth, Waits felt one needed to know whether there was gum under the table or how many cigarettes were in the ashtray. The dried, soiled locations he stayed in during his early tours fed directly into the world he was constructing. Quote, I would wind up in these very strange places, these rooms with stains on the wallpaper, foggy voices down the hall, sharing a bathroom with a guy with a hernia. I'd watch TV with old men in the lobby. I knew there was music in those places and stories. That's what I was looking for. End quote.
Yeah, I guess I've always viewed the world, and I guess I've probably never done a very good job of living in it. That's
Yeah, how do you mean
probably
that?
why I'm not, um, because am always aware of what's happening around me. I'm
Hmm.
watching it happen. I've never been good at putting myself in and interacting in it. I think it's probably a good chunk of why I've never been successful, or at least it hasn't helped. Hasn't helped because uh, when it goes to actually putting myself and interacting in a situation and throwing myself out, uh, that never felt natural to me.
Hmm.
But I always notice what's going on around. And I
Yeah.
think that the songs that what people do like about my songs are like pretty similar to what the quote that you were just using there, because I see all this stuff, and I also grew up in rural Ohio, so people that also grew up in rural American situations have seen a lot of this stuff, and
Hmm.
we all see it every single day. Uh, I notice, and because of the living in, at or below the poverty line, uh, I see everyday America, and I live inside of it. Similar, like talking about staying at the hotels, and and a guy
Yeah.
with a hernia, like I live in this world, and I am always viewing it. Again, I haven't done a great job of interacting and with the world,
Hmm.
but I do I see all these things,
Yeah.
and that's the way I see the world, for better or worse. Is but I can't help but pay attention and notice these things.
Right. Right. And speaking back to what you were saying about how ostensibly the majority of your work is autobiographical. I mean, like,
Yeah.
so you're taking these experiences, I mean, from tour specifically, or just, just everyday life, and kind of putting them to songs.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why it gets put through my brain in that, who knows how these things shake out by nature or nurture, I don't know. But there's the one line off the new record that I think strikes people, and it strikes me because it's true,
Hmm.
but it's like talking about the bedazzled state provided ankle monitor,
Hmm.
and that's just from seeing a old person, a person I knew from high school was making bedazzled, covers to go over ankle monitors. And if you're living in that, that's just a thing that somebody does, and it's no big deal. And but I see that, and that's such a we see all these things, and I
Yeah.
just try to write them down.
So that's a legit hustle this person has. They're like, well,
Yeah,
I know so many people that have ankle monitors. We should just doll them up so that they're, at least they look nice.
that's no shit. That's no shit. Because going to work with your ankle monitor on is embarrassing. What can we do to make it
I mean,
not?
doesn't that attract more attention though? Like, you don't want people to see it. You don't want people.
But yeah, right. But then maybe it's attention on your own, more on your own terms.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. You make it, you make it your own. You kind of like,
Right.
have some fashion with it, or I guess, have some fun with it.
Yeah. And that, I mean, that's just like a small snippet of what we're talking about here,
But
of seeing these things and
right, and it's
interacting.
true. And the funny thing is like, how does it land with an audience? Because maybe you had a certain intention by writing that into that song, but I mean, like, you know, I think that you're right. The majority of your music, I would say all of it relates. People can relate to it in one way or
Mhm.
another. So, um, like, do you think about that? Like how your songs are going to land with something? Because with them being so personal, it's just like, are you worried or concerned in any way? Like when you're putting something out?
I think I get no. I never factor that in. I think that from a business perspective, I should factor that in, how it's
Why?
going to land and who's going to receive it. I
Yeah.
should. I don't.
If it's
Um,
relatable though, I mean, like you expect it's going to land with everybody. I mean, you expect it's going to do well because, people want to relate to things. They usually gravitate towards the things that they can connect to.
and I think for better or worse, the people that do connect with what I do, it's a deep connection because of these very like personal and slices of life that we all see, whether we recognize them or not. But
Right.
yeah, I've been thinking about this. Well, I think about this a lot just over the last couple of years
Hmm.
of seeing, because obviously you get older, and I'm sure I don't know if you've experienced this at all, but like you play with a lot of bands and you see um, bands become, or some acts become really successful and like blow past you. I've
Hmm.
had a lot of that. Like,
Right.
one of our first times in Providence, like Deer Tick opened for us,
Oh yeah.
and they were great, and everything was a great night. And then 6 months later, like they blew up and they were huge. And that was like
Yeah.
the first one where like, you know, we did a show with the Avett Brothers, and like all this stuff, you see these bands go past you, and I'm like, well, I feel like at least on the professional caliber, what am I missing? What are they doing? What is hitting?
Hmm.
And I've never considered the audience, and maybe I should have. I feel
Hmm.
like it would be lame to like start trying to do that now. I know a lot of writers do consider their audience and who
Really?
they're going shooting for.
Yeah.
Um, and I
Okay.
think for a lot of people, it's a natural thing to do, to like, well, who am I writing this for? I don't have that in me. I
Yeah.
guess maybe this whole thing is just too personal to me to like to think that way.
Right.
Um,
Weird.
you know,
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't
I
know.
don't know.
I've never really actually thought about that, and I mean, I'm sure I probably asked a few people that in the times that I've been doing these, but I mean, it's an interesting thing. I
Do
would
you write
love.
songs?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Do you
haven't.
consider the audience?
No, no, not at all. I mean, but I feel like my songs are personal, but they're not like kind of heart on your shirt sleeve type of songs.
Hmm.
Like I feel
Right.
like I pull from my experiences, but kind of in a more shrouded way. Like I don't think I say anything very directly.
Right. Right.
I think I sometimes I'm concerned with like will people know too much from me saying this? Like like
Right.
if I sing this thing, is it going to be like taken too literally, or are people going to be able to pinpoint exactly what I mean when I say this?
Right.
You know,
Right.
as opposed to like, can they take these words and just kind of go nuts and think whatever they want to think?
Right. Right. So yeah, I've always been trying to pinpoint the person and the feeling at the time, so they know exactly who the fuck I'm talking to.
Yeah. And that person hears that song is just like, oh fuck,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
mad at me.
yeah. It's not the ladder to success. I wouldn't recommend it for anyone.
No, I don't know. I mean, like, I think some people get off on that. Like, I mean, I think some people do well with like calling out other people, other artists, or just, you know, people in their own lives. I mean, and can just kind of put it to song.
Right,
It can
right.
work, you know?
Yeah. I that's one lesson I don't ever really go after anyone's specifically. I've made that mistake in songs before, and it
Mm,
doesn't age well, I feel like. But
sure.
so
Yeah.
yeah, we're not going after the haters with a diss track yet.
Yeah.
But
Not
who
yet.
knows?
We got to get more into the hip hop culture. You got to start
Mhm.
working on more of those.
That's right.
Okay, so here's a really interesting question I wanted to ask you. In the research I've done, I came across this quote from Waits describing Small Change. Now, I know that
Mm,
that's the record that came directly after this one, but it's kind of in the same time frame, or at least close to it. Um, so he told Barney Hoskins, quote, "Some songs you write and record, but you may never sing them again. Others you sing every night and try to figure out what they mean." End quote. Um, so what I want to ask you is there anything you're learning or have learned from playing your songs every night?
ooh, a life of things. Because these songs all come from different moments, different emotions and stuff, and it's
Hmm.
you learn like to take from that quote directly, like the point from that quote directly. Like, you do some songs take on these personalities and attitudes that you do sing them every single night, and there are other songs that you still love, and some of my favorites um, that don't make sense, don't feel like they make sense in front of people.
Hmm.
So it's really interesting thing, and maybe I don't think it's because of lyrical content or anything or them being too personal. Just every song having its own personality, and
Yeah.
you learn. I've learned more about myself from singing songs because I can feel what's true, or at least true to me, when I sing it. And sometimes you write something because it sounds good or whatever, it makes it to a record, but then uh, you go out and sing it and it doesn't feel true. And I can hear it when I say it
Hmm.
that
Okay.
it's either contrived or I was saying it for the rhyme, for an easy rhyme or something like that. And
Right,
it feels
right.
cheap and I don't want to sing it. And I can hear my voice when it's untrue to me, you know?
Ah, okay. And so those are the songs that you you know, kind of like sway away from when you're
Yeah,
picking out
yeah,
your list for the night.
yeah. And if, obviously if somebody wants to hear one of those songs or whatever, you do it. Be
Of
happy that
course.
somebody gave a crap.
Right.
But, but still being able to hear the untrue lines or the misses when you sing it.
Mm, right. No, I mean, like to expound on this a little bit, like I didn't write down any of the rest of the quote from where I got this quote from in the book, but I do remember Tom Waits kind of like describing this in further, kind of like explaining how like some songs, like you know, you play them so often, but like you're still trying to figure them out, like as far as like what they mean to you.
Hmm.
So I mean, like, even though your songs are so autobiographical, they kind of come from a very, you know, specific place in your memory. I mean, is there anything that like you feel that you've learned from them or you're learning from them?
See, you're kind of constantly, it's constantly changing. The second that you, like every time you play it, you're a
Hmm.
completely different person when you're playing it.
So
So
the
it
words
means
hit
something.
differently, do you think?
Yeah, yeah. It means something completely different. Um, and then I think there's, sorry, a booking email just popped up.
That's okay.
I just
Good.
swipe it
Hope it's a
away.
good one.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, I hope so too. But yeah, yeah, every time you play the song, you're a completely different person. Especially like I started making records when I was 19, so you're singing some of these songs now. when I have to sing some of those, I wrote them as a child and I was singing them as an adult. Um,
Hmm.
there's still something to learn every single time from that, looking back onto it and hear how youthful perspective or how angry I was when I was young, and
Hmm.
then you can look back on yourself a little bit. So every time you, yeah, perform an old song or any song, you're a completely different person. So there's always something new to dig into it.
Mm. Okay. Cool, man. So like comparing this album to your own catalog of work, I mean, what do you think you took away from Nighthawks the Diner that like, that like influenced or seeped into your music?
Breaking song structure, breaking normalized song structure, verse,
Mm.
chorus, verse.
Yeah.
Uh, I have abandoned, pretty much abandoned that. Obviously, it still falls in here and there, but I, whereas before I was verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. That's how I knew how to write a song, because that's how the songs on Big Back 40's Bested were put together, and that's how I knew how to write a song. So I was like, it's just, I remember thinking like, okay, well, what's the bridge going to be? Because this is where the bridge goes.
Yeah.
Um, and for whatever reason, with this record, that broke my brain out of that. Uh,
Hmm.
so from that point moving forward, it's like a lot of songs. There's no need for a chorus, unless you got some big chorus that really needs to hit. You got to get the point across.
Hmm.
You don't need the commercial in the middle.
Right.
It's trying to sell trucks or whatever. So now, which I should consider the audience and write a song to sell trucks. But
No, they can always break it up themselves. They can always just chop it up, be like that right there, those
like,
four measures, just copy it and loop it now. And
yeah,
now
it's
now we got our
right.
commercial, and you
Yeah.
got like thousands of bucks in the bank.
But I think character writing characters and
Mm.
moments, really focusing on writing moments and breaking normal song structure are the two really big keys that I took away, and how why this record made such an impact on my life.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, would you say lyrically
Uh
or vocally, like kind of like, I hear this like I listen to this record and it's just like there's a certain cadence about his vocal performance. Aside from the intros. The intros were just like kind of improv like comedy for the most part.
right, right.
But I mean, like I mean, I think you said it earlier. Like he's like writing these short stories, right? And
Hmm.
like, thinking about your latest record, The Clown Watches the Clock, right? Um,
Right.
there's definitely a lot of storytelling in that record.
Yeah, yeah. 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 So there's yeah, that's just off the top of my head. I'm sure there's probably much more that I've taken, that, those little unknown things that you don't even think about. But
Right.
definitely, there's probably a cadence in there or two of lines where I learned how to sell a line from
Mm-hmm.
that record.
Mm.
Sell something funny on top of the darkness or underneath the darkness of the structure.
Right, right. And
So
like as
yeah,
far as performing is concerned, like I saw you play in Providence recently,
yeah,
and there's always, especially performing alone. Like
right,
that's a task because, you are the center of attention. Everyone's
yeah,
eyes are on you the entire time.
right, right.
Um, so even between songs, I mean, there's like there's the banter, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
um Tom on this record, I mean, he's just so funny. Like, I mean, and it has a little bit to do with like that quote I read for you earlier, where he's kind of like, he had to soak up the environment. He had to like, like you could just imagine him like jotting down notes of like
right,
shit he's heard from like, the old guys at the
right.
bar and like stuff that they've said. I mean, and like a lot of that is in this record. I mean, I have a copy of it.
Yeah.
This is actually a really old, banged up copy that I can't sell because it's the records are warped.
Oh shit.
There's like this really bad
Oh no.
warp in there. There's like this
Yeah,
freaking
yeah,
total like bend.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's pretty nasty. But I do
Oh,
get to listen to the majority of it. I can still play most of it. So but
that's
there's
that's kind of a
lyrics
really nice thing. That's actually really like that. That's
that
really
it
cool.
that
You
it's
can listen
warped.
to most of it. Yeah,
Most
you
of
can
it,
listen to
yeah.
most.
Yeah, I have to skip like the first couple of tracks on each side.
Right.
But so it has some of the it has the lyrics on the inside,
Uh-huh.
but I don't think Yeah, I don't think that any of the
The
improv, the
intros.
intros are
Yeah.
on here. But I mean, like, it's just all of his music is littered with that shit, where it's just like vocally, you hear this thing, like he's kind of like a carnival barker, right?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And a storyteller. Like those two things mixed into this character that just the charm is undeniable and draws
Right.
you in.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so you don't, do you feel like you've picked up some of that stuff either from him, or like have you paid attention to, like what's a quick little quip I can throw on stage, like if I get up there, you know?
I hadn't thought about it, but I'm guessing I have. I think when Vanessa and I did like a couple of bigger tours on bigger stages,
Hmm.
that I was like, okay, if I'm just going to be up here with an acoustic guitar, you have to take charge of that because it's painful as an audience. I know because I've seen it like an audience member when you're watching someone with like just an acoustic guitar or something, like be real tight and like not say anything in between, or like they just look really small on the stage. And if you don't, if you're going out trying to grab an audience, like you have to go do it. So on the
Hmm.
bigger stages, I was definitely listening to a lot of Tom Waits, and I was like, how do you address this? How do you actually do it? And like, it's a play. It's a play.
Hmm.
No matter the size of the stage. When you have a big stage, you can really take advantage of it. Um, but yes, so there was definitely that Tom Waits leaning into that of the in between songs and everything, and taking advantage of the space that you have and trying to grab that attention and keep it to you. I hadn't thought about that having an effect on the in between songs and everything and the banter, but it absolutely has.
Yeah.
Trying to keep that attention directed, and because if you keep moving forward and there's aren't those breaks in between songs, you keep everybody's attention, same as a play. You don't want these spaces where, unless it's very purposeful, everything has to be purposeful. You want that attention flowing at all times. So if I have 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever, I want us all to be feel it to feel, you know, flowing and happening. And then when it's over, it's over.
Hmm.
Hopefully you didn't have to think about it too much.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, man, that's a tough gig, man. I do not envy that so much.
It's fun.
Yeah?
Once you get the turn, for me, it's been really fun because I do see it as like the set list as like it's a play now,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
and I
All right.
know it's seen as one as a show, as a full show.
Right.
How do I do that? How do I approach that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I have it in me. I don't think I have the gene that you need to be like a solo performer. I mean, like I can play with a band all day. Like I can sit in the back and play fine
Right.
and be happy and enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I mean, like when you have to be in the front and like on the microphone and you have to sing. I mean, I'm not a great singer. That's where it
Mhm.
gets really scary. You know what I mean? And
Ye-
I've talked to other people
Yeah.
that have said this, that are, essentially front people, singers,
Right.
that they're like, as soon as, like, if I have to do an acoustic set just alone, they're like, I'm terrified. Like
It's it's a super vulnerable position. Super vulnerable. Um,
right.
it's like we talked about. There's no one to I can't turn around and look at the bass player, or if something messes up, if a mistake is made, there's only you. It's just you by yourself. And what do you have right here, right now, that's going to make sense in this situation? It is
Right.
terrifying. But then when it works, like anything, when it works, it feels incredible. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, with you doing it as like your, primary gig, I mean, like, that's every night you're performing, that this is what you're doing. I mean, like, is there a comfort level you reach, or is there, like, like you're saying, like when it hits, but like, are there nights where it doesn't hit?
Of course, of course. A lot of times it does. But that's like you were just saying with comfort level. Once you find that comfort level, because it's not like I go out every night and like do the show and have the same bits in between or anything. Like
Hmm.
that that doesn't work. Um, you go out every night, and if you're relaxed and allow things to just be, funny things will pop up. Uh, things will pop into your head that
Hmm.
haven't ever happened before. If you go out and try to just do like a play, if you try to just do these lines and everything, it'll go flat really fast and not really work. But
Hmm.
if you go out open, relaxed, and let it be, that's usually when. Even if there ends up being no banter in between and you're just relaxed and rolls right into another, that's better than trying to force something
Mm,
to happen. And
right.
so yeah, just finding more, definitely finding more comfort in being up, being on the stage by yourself and allowing things to just be
Hmm.
and roll with it.
Okay.
But yeah,
I will keep.
takes a long time and it's difficult.
Okay. Well, I'll have to start tomorrow, and I'll keep that in mind. All right. Well, let's talk about this record a little bit. We'll do a little bit of a track by track. The first song I want to get into, minus intros, obviously, because every song has an intro. Emotional Weather Report.
Yeah.
So let's see. In the book Low Side of the Road by Barney Hoskins, he states this song is, quote, the perfect vehicle for a self-portrait of shabby loneliness in the less salubrious neighborhoods of Los Angeles, end quote. So, I mean, for you, I'd have the question, what could you state your emotional weather is currently like?
Uh, moment to moment,
Yeah.
the chance of a hurricane. Emotional weather report right now. Doing all right for
Yeah.
January. Being seen in the sunshine. The sun's not shining today. It's cloudy, but uh, overall, I'd say cloudy with a chance of sun a little bit later on.
Yeah.
Booking into May and June and trying to the winter's always difficult. I think it's difficult for most people,
Yeah.
especially us cold weather folks. You get kind of
Hmm.
trapped inside, and the artistic life, it's just a difficult time of year in general because you're kind of locked at home and there's not a
Mm.
lot of money moving around. So you got to
Right.
generate it yourself and figure things out. So I'm trying to really working on not going because I go super dark in January. I don't do any work, and then it messes me up for the rest of the year because you're playing catch up.
Mm.
So I'm working really hard this year on doing the booking, doing the work, even when my brain wants to go dark, pushing against that and
Mm.
booking the damn shows, playing the UFO Museum in Green Bay in March, baby.
UFO museum? Like
That's
legit?
right.
Wow.
Yeah. Don't be jealous.
Yeah. Fuck. I mean, hey man, it's something. UFO, you get free admission to the museum, I suppose, right? That's cool.
Oh well, the best.
Do you are you a believer?
I'm not. Not.
Uh-oh. Is that
Well, I
gonna
mean,
is that not gonna
I
go over
think
well at the museum?
well,
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll take the
We're gonna
show on the
find out
road. We're gonna
now.
see. I hope there is. Come and get me. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have a friend who is an astronomy teacher.
Hmm.
So I asked him once, I was just like, do you believe there's other, intelligent life on, out there?
Right.
And he's just like, if you just think about the number of galaxies and the number of planets out there, like, the billions of them that exist that we know about,
Right.
is it's
Right.
like, what are the chances that one of them doesn't have the ability to sustain life?
Right. Right. There has to be.
Yeah. I mean, whether or
There
not
has to be.
they're advanced enough that they have, flying vehicles that they can, travel intergalactically
Right.
and
Right.
visit us
Right. I
is
should restate that. So I do believe, I don't believe that there's anyone coming to visiting and gives a shit about our little planet.
yeah. Yeah, I mean like they're probably just on tour. They're
Right.
just
One
they're
nighter.
just yeah, they're just like, whoa, what's this cool place? Let's stop in. It's like, oh, this place looks fucked up. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, we're canceling that. Tell the
Yeah.
agent no more
No more one-nighters on Earth. Thank you.
Earth.
All right, well let's talk about On a Foggy Night.
Hmm.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, so this one's a weird song. Like it's
This
a
is a weird one.
great one, but it's like
Yeah.
I think it's very much like a film noir in song.
Yeah. And almost something that could have been on like the first couple records.
Yeah. Yeah, because he switches over to guitar in this song, so he actually
Yeah.
and it's just him, I think, for the most part. There's a little bit of
I think so.
instrumentation.
Yeah. Because he kind of
Hold on.
plinks around there before the start of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not much to say about this song, really.
That was kind of an oddball that, yeah, I think it feels like it could be on the first, would fit on the first couple of records, more the acoustic guitar singing, more singing of songs.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing about this record, right? Is that there's like I think that I think I actually kind of like skip past the entire D side of this record because I mean, not like listening to it, I'll listen to it, but I mean, as far
Right,
as
right.
like kind of like I feel like this record slows down Like there's
Mm.
moments where it's just like, the song's okay, it's good,
Right,
you know,
right,
and
right.
I'll listen to it usually because there's something in it that grabs me that's just like, oh, I can't wait for that one part that's in this song that kind of
Right.
makes me chuckle or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But by the end, like by the fourth side of the record, like Nobody, and then that Big Joe Phantom 309, and then of
Hmm.
course Spare Parts 2, which is essentially just like the outro of the whole
Right,
album.
right.
There's like it's I don't know, it kind of it sputters out a little bit, you think?
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I'm sure you're piecing it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
I think that was one
probably
of
shouldn't too
the
much into
things
it.
about this record. Like I can't remember who said it or what book it was that I was reading, saying something along the lines of like it like the it's not a great record. Like like he was still kind of developing the stuff, so therefore it's like it's not like a solid record. And so,
Right.
there's definitely like, with any record, like you have your ebbs and flows, you have like maybe a strong song or two, but
Hmm.
in like it just wasn't like a completely baked thing when he went into the
Right.
studio.
Right. Which is probably a sacrifice you make for making such a or a sacrifice you'll have to make for like we said at the beginning of this, like being so loose of a
Right.
situation in general. So there's gonna
Yeah.
be there's almost always fat that could have been trimmed.
Yeah, yeah. But for the idea that this album was essentially just to kind of introduce people to the persona, like Tom Waits' persona, like what you would see
Right.
if you went to go see him live.
Right.
That was essentially like the basis for this whole record, I think.
That makes sense.
Which they captured because
That
it's
makes,
he's hilarious. Like I mean, he's
yeah.
just such a great showman, and like you can hear it in all those intros. Like the intros are almost as good, if not better, than the songs.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, let's see. Let's move on to Eggs and Sausage in a Cadillac with Susan Mitchelson.
Right. Right.
This song sets quite a scene of a harrowing experiences in historic LA diners. Being a longtime road dog, can you tell me one of the worst dining experiences you've had? Waffle houses are a given. You can't use Waffle
Yeah.
House.
Oh, well, hold on. I think this is worth it. Uh, God, so many terrible places. Okay, it wasn't a Waffle House, but if we need to lie, I can lie and say it wasn't. It
No,
wasn't.
no, no. I'm
But
saying like
our
exclude
drummer
Waffle
got
Houses because that's a given if you go to a Waffle House.
our drummer had ordered bacon and he didn't eat it because he just didn't want it. And the manager came over and was like, "Is there something wrong with your bacon, sir?" And he was like, "Oh no, I'm just full. I'm good." And he's like, "Are you sure?" And we're like, "Yeah, yeah, it's totally fine. No, all good. Just didn't want it. I'm hungry." And manager leaves. And then the waitress comes over and asks, "Is there something wrong with the bacon?" And we're like, "No, no, we're just not hungry anymore." And so she leaves. And then the cook that cooked it came over with the spatula and he put a spatula down on the table. He's like, "Is there something wrong with the bacon?" And we're like,
Jesus.
"No, it's fine." It was terrifying. We just put money on the table and had to leave. It's unbelievable. That's a real thing that happened
Jesus
in
Christ.
Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Whoa, weird. Okay, they take their
Awful.
bacon very seriously.
God damn, it was like a personal affront to the cook that he did not eat the bacon. We're like, dude, just eat it or throw it away, do something with it. Get
Right. Do it well, I mean, and so just because I'm curious, I mean, like, was there something that was wrong with the bacon?
No, it was fine. He just didn't want it.
Okay, all right.
It was
All right.
unbelievable. A
So
personal
strange.
attack. It was very
Yeah,
strange.
so
That's a good
threatening.
odd diner story.
Yeah. That was like a legit diner too, old school kind of local haunt.
Yeah, yeah, the full deal,
Hmm. The
filthy.
endless cup of coffee and so
Yeah,
forth.
right.
All right. That's wild, man. I am not going to Chattanooga anytime soon. Let's see, another song, Better Off Without a Wife.
Oh yeah, that's another kind of oddball. I feel
Yeah.
like,
Very
but
funny.
good. It's
The
great.
intro's
Very funny.
hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
This is the song where he goes into detail about
yeah,
spending a little time with himself.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's leaning into the comedic side big time on this record, which
Hmm.
not the first record, which is a kind of new thing. Really leaning into the lounge entertainer full deal.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
All
which
right.
he's great at. It works.
He's wonderful. So this song, I'm actually I was really interested to anxious to get to this song because let's see, this song obviously gives a single guy's account of the benefit of being single, but you are not single. You are now you have a
Yeah,
partner, Vanessa Jean Speckman,
yeah,
correct?
yeah, yeah.
And you guys aren't married though.
No, not in the eyes of the law. But we've been
Oh,
together for almost 14 years,
do you consider
13 years.
yourself like married, or do you just consider partners? Is that what you
Uh,
say?
yeah, we say partners just
Yeah.
because, yeah, we just, I don't know, whatever, to each their own. We're never like, man, I love you so much, we should get the government involved.
Yeah,
That
that's a
never
weird
crossed my
thing.
mind to want to
I
do that.
I didn't think about it that way. I didn't think of that way when I proposed to my wife. I proposed in a very, very strange way.
How'd you
Is
go about?
well, we did everything backwards. We actually met. Let's see, we were dating. We had a child, and then bought a house, and then we got married.
Oh shit, all right.
So
I like
yeah,
that.
so our son was he had to have been like maybe one by the time I proposed to her.
Okay.
And there was no getting on a knee, there was no ring. It was
Right,
just
right.
like we were having coffee in our kitchen. The boy was around like having breakfast or walk like crawling around or something. I was just like, hey, how do you feel about getting married? She's just like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. She's like, when? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I'm just shooting the idea out there. Like, would you be interested in doing that? She's like, okay. Like, that was it.
That was it. That was
Yeah,
all right. I like that.
that was it. Just over a cup of coffee. Just like, yeah, you want to do this thing? Like,
Yeah.
okay, sure. Yeah. Here we are, 14 years later, I think, married.
Oh shit, right, right.
Yeah. It's been wild.
Worked.
It's working. It's working. Constant,
Yeah,
constant work in progress.
absolutely, absolutely.
But so what do you, so you're no longer single. So, like, it's a good change, you think?
Yeah, I'm very thankful that it was just never like Vanessa and I had known each other for a little bit, and then we got together, and it was this kind of
Yeah.
seamless thing. It was just
Just felt normal,
that was
natural.
yes, yes, just normal, natural, and like you said, of course, it's
I mean,
work every single day
oh yeah. Yeah.
loving somebody. Listen, now we're going to a different podcast, but like loving somebody is takes direct action every single day. It's not
Right.
just saying I love you, but so that's yeah, action every single day. But yeah, we were very fortunate that it was just like this
Mm,
works,
right.
and now it's 13 going on 14 years later. So
Wow.
yeah,
Great.
very
Congratulations.
thanks. Very well.
But you guys also work together. Like, you're kind of
Yeah,
constantly on tour together and
yeah,
performing together.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a
'Cause
different kind of dynamic.
it is, because as we've learned, you're supposed to, if you're going to be an artist, you're supposed to marry a person with a legit job, because it makes it easier for you to go out and be the artist.
Hmm.
Vanessa and I do not have that, so we're both make our money by yelling, and it's erratic,
Hmm.
and it makes it very difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, we have to navigate, but also on the plus side, it's really nice to like, because you've toured, like trying to explain when somebody's like, "How was the tour?" and you're like, "Well, good. Did you
Yeah.
make any money? No. Were the shows good? Not really. This one was good." Like trying to
Right.
explain the things. It's nice to have somebody that goes through it with you and knows that what it all means and how it feels and stuff. So
Right.
it makes you
Right.
feel seen, and it's much easier to live rather than coming home to somebody that doesn't experience that and being like, "Why aren't you making money?" And be like, I don't know how to make money."
Right. But even like artistically, like, but so she's an artist, and so how did you
Yeah.
guys meet?
So we originally met because she was making a zine. She's from the Bay Area in California, and her brother had made a zine, um, and they had worked with the record label that Two Cow was on at the time, suburb out of Colorado, and so we met through them, and then she ended up so she was nice enough. She wrote about our band, and then we met them at met Vanessa at a show in San Francisco. She came out too with her brother Patrick, and that's where we first met. And then so we were just friends for 2 years or so. And then she was supposed to go out on tour managing a friend of ours, and the tour ended up getting canceled. She ended up in a spot. Uh, so she flew to Columbus and got in the van with Tucal to do our 10-year anniversary run.
Hmm.
And that's how we met. That's how I just took off from there.
Oh,
So that's yeah.
yeah.
So she was an artist, scene maker, um, painter, Jane of all trades.
Yeah. Okay,
So,
cool. Yeah, I hope to meet her sometime soon.
yeah. I hope so too.
Yeah. Let's move on to another song. Let's say we're gonna skip Nighthawk postcards because it's a little kind of.
Yeah.
So let's see. Next song is Warm Beer and Cold Women. Uh, yeah, I don't know. We could probably throw a joke in there, but I'm not gonna try.
Right.
Um, let's see. The song title sounds like the opposite of your life right now. You're sober
Right.
right now, right? You said?
Oh yeah. And then, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not.
You,
I know I know the big thing right now is the preach it like thing, and I don't believe that. I don't think it's any better way of living than drinking.
it's just your
I think,
choice.
yeah. It's just a yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
People make a really big deal about it. I don't think they should make such a big deal about it. And I could
No,
probably
I,
get
I,
into some shit.
I hear you. My wife says the same thing actually because she is sober now for a few years, and it's just like it's one of those weird things. It's like where if you tell somebody that you don't drink, they're like, oh, like was it bad? Like, are you okay? This
Right.
is like
Right.
it was her choice. She just decided one day like I don't want to do this anymore, and that was it.
Yeah. 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 And I hate the proselytizing that a lot of people that stop do. They stop and they're like, who do you think you are, sinner? God damn it, man. You just found another addiction. Get out of my way.
Right.
Whatever. That's
That's very
another
true.
whole another podcast right there.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, so do you see or feel any difference in your writing compared to when you used to dabble?
Uh, I think like we talked at the beginning of this,
Mm-hmm.
my when I was drinking, I would be able to focus for longer periods of time.
That's weird.
Um,
I feel like it's usually the opposite, isn't it? Where you like
I
the more
don't
you drink, the
know.
kind of like I don't know, the more I drink, I just fall off. I'm just like I can't, but especially like reading or writing stuff like that, like it's just,
Yeah,
I get too googly eyed or something,
yeah. And never, but like I think between like 2 to 4 drinks would be like my I could really focus for
Hmm.
like you can see it in the books and stuff. Like, but yeah, my sober brain is very choppy as part of like we were talking about working on the focus and stuff on my attention span
Yeah.
and trying to work on that. But so yeah, that's what I really notice is sober brain is
Yeah, I mean,
very like
comparatively speaking, like obviously you see a line between, when you used to drink and trying to write now. I mean, was there something that kind of stuck out to you, like from the like let's just say a finished product where you're like, that seems different for some reason?
mm,
Not really?
no, not that I've noticed. Like
Hmm.
not aside from the choppiness, the new work is definitely very choppy and very bop bop bop. Whereas I had a little more of a fulfilled thought uh, when I was drinking.
Hmm.
So there's a
Okay. A
downside.
little bit. But you're healthy, feeling good.
Oh, not healthy?
Well, that's
Another
comparatively
bullshit
speaking.
scam selling to you by Big Sober.
Well, I'm not saying that like, you automatically like if you stop drinking, you automatically kind of like you lose all your cholesterol, you fucking like lose weight, all that stuff. I'm just saying like
Right.
realistically, I mean, like no
Yeah.
hangovers, like, waking up kind of clear-headed every morning, I imagine, right?
Yeah. I don't know. How do you wake up? I hate
I
waking up.
so I still drink and I smoke pot too. So
That's
uh
good.
I think so. I'm fine with it. I mean, but like I
Yeah,
wake up and I'm
absolutely.
groggy. Okay, but then there's nights where I don't, I mean, I don't go on extended breaks. If anything,
Uh-huh.
2, 3 nights where I won't have anything at all.
Right.
And those mornings, I wake up fucking groggy too. So I feel the
Yeah.
same way. So I'm like, it doesn't fucking matter if I quit or not.
That's what. Yeah. Yeah. Like I'm like over 2.5, almost 3 years. I still feel hungover when I wake up. It
Wow.
still just feels like like I guess people call it groggy. I guess I
Yeah.
am like I wake up and my brain is the darkest, awful place for the first like 20 minutes. Like the
Yeah.
darkest shit that we can think of, like
Yeah.
every morning.
You need
And then my
coffee?
brain scans for, yes, absolutely. And even then, but like my brain scans for every terrible thing that's going to happen for the rest of the day and that's ever happened in my life.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
like, I don't know. And it still just feels like crap. Waking up sucks.
Is that a good time to write for you?
No, no, no. Nobody would want to. No,
No?
absolutely not. People are always like, I wake up and write my dreams. I'm like, that's insanity.
Well,
There's no way.
maybe it is insanity, and which sounds
Yeah,
it can be it could be appealing maybe.
you're right. Okay, maybe I need to be thinking about the listener and what they want to hear.
Oh, no, no, no. Just think of it as well, I mean, do you feel like you have like crazy dreams?
Not really.
I
No,
don't remember any of my dreams really for the
I don't
most part.
either. I don't either. Yeah, like the first, maybe like right when I wake up, but they're never.
Never
Nobody
sticks.
wants to hear about your dreams.
I don't know. I mean,
You
sometimes
know what I mean?
if you have some really weird surreal experience, I feel like that's kind of the stuff I like to really write about is like where like I don't because it can be personalized, right? I mean, like you can take an experience from a dream and, kind of relate it to your life.
Right, right.
But if it's kind of like just such some weird wild shit that just happens in your brain, I mean, like there's a way for it to kind of color itself instead of you kind of like coming up with the words and explaining it and like creating a scene.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. That's a good point.
I don't know. I mean, it's
Maybe we need to start
something
writing down the dreams.
I've been meaning to for a long time. I just don't. I don't know.
Right.
I don't have the capacity, the wherewithal to like, pick up my phone and start like typing
Yeah,
away.
yeah. Me
I don't
either.
know. All
Me
right.
either.
Maybe one day. All right. Let's see. There's only one more song I want to touch on, which is Putnam County.
Yeah.
In an interview with NME in 1976, Tom says, quote, "These guys, most likely referring to the Eagles, who were based out of Los Angeles, grew up in LA and they don't have cow shit on their boots. They just have dog shit from Laurel Canyon. They wouldn't last 2 minutes in Putnam County. That's for sure. If somebody gets shot and killed there on a Saturday night, the Sunday papers say he just died of natural causes." End quote. And this quote makes me think a lot about your new album, The Clown Watches the Clock.
Right, right.
I mean,
Well,
can you
should we
see?
say that Tom's school teacher's kid from San Diego?
Yeah.
He ain't from nowhere. He's just a
Mm,
good storyteller.
he is a good storyteller, yeah. But I mean, yeah, I mean, think that he's just, first of all, he has some gripe with the Eagles, which I mean, I guess it makes sense because, why not?
They did old 55.
And he should be very
And I
thankful to them, and I'm sure he is.
right? So what's his thing? He does I get it because they were probably just the rich kids, but
They're just like, just shitty music. I mean, compared to what he does and what he likes, I mean, like
right,
that's pop radio shit.
right, right.
So,
No,
I mean,
it makes sense that they would have that because they were probably different scenes in Los Angeles at the same time.
right. And I don't know if this quote is out of context where maybe there was some full length discussion about the Eagles and how
Right.
just like some pretty boys from LA, who have it made easy and
Hmm.
I'm not sure if even in any of their songs there's like any kind of like cowboy kind of outlaw country shit on them. I guess maybe a little bit like, Desperado or something, or maybe something on that record that came out.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of a
But
touch, a
that's just
touch.
posing. So it's him just saying they're posing as
Yeah.
like they can be cowboys and they don't know shit about cowboys. But
That's
the
true.
point of this is how, they wouldn't last 2 minutes in Putnam County. In Putnam County, the name of this song, sounding like obviously a really kind of rough and tumble place,
Right.
and that's the feeling I get from your new record. I mean, like you
Yeah.
said all these scenes where they're highly relatable, I feel, to the majority of Americans, and it's a lot of like kind of the the dark side of the street, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's all this stuff is a very common American stuff too.
Right.
Again, like we talk about viewing or seeing these things, but uh, especially from the last record, it is a very common American experience. Some people don't like to look at that or pretend not to see it or whatever, but I think it's all very super common American experiences, whether someone wants to look at that and admit it or not.
Yeah. Well, that's, I guess, yeah, whether they want to look at it or not, I guess, I don't know, maybe that's the bigger question,
Right.
but I liked it a lot. I mean, I think it's a great record. It's not
Thank
what I
you.
was expecting, actually, because, you are out on tour solo all the
Right.
time now, and there's like a whole band on that record.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I always hear drums first, mostly with songs. So there's always yeah, I always like having the full instrumentation on everything
Yeah,
represented. And
really.
Vanessa and I are actually taking a full band out here in May.
Oh,
And I
cool.
just got the confirmation for Chicago for the night, so that's good.
All right. Well, but and so it's the recording band for this album, or
Yeah, yeah.
it's not
All
Two
the
Cow.
guys. No, but yeah, it's all ancestral. Columbus is a small town, so the
Hmm.
guitar player, it's the same guitar player that plays in Two Cow. But yeah, it's the band from the solo record.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah,
But now you are doing some shows with Two Cow soon.
yeah. 20, yeah, February 21, and then yeah, we got a couple other things coming later in the year.
So I mean, is Two Cow still exist technically, or are you just
Yeah, yeah. It's Shane and I, the two songwriters, and then we have our friend George, and then Jay Gasper's guitar player. Yeah, we played in Little Rock back in December. Um, it's just not financially doable to tour as a band right now. So
Oh,
if and when opportunities come, we will do those.
oh,
Um, but right now, taking 4 or 5
right,
people out on the road is just pretty much
right.
impossible for somebody at our level.
Yeah, yeah. No, I hear that, but I mean, I just I think I just assumed that like Two Cow kind of dissolved, and then like you guys just weren't together anymore.
Never. Shane and I are life partners.
Hmm.
Nobody can take it from us but us. So
Yeah.
until one of us dies, there's two cow garage.
Oh, that's cool. Well, that's great. I mean,
Yeah.
it's great to know that that's a possibility. I mean, I just didn't know that it was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Cool.
a lot of people never did. That's probably why we're not able to go out and do more.
Well, yeah, yeah. But I mean, like, I think it's a pretty good model for yourself. I mean, obviously, what can work for you guys, on a financial level.
Right.
So, I mean, just to have the option open is great.
It is. It is. I'm very thankful for it. And it's nice. Nice to be able to do all these different things, all these
Right.
different options.
Yeah. So what's on the horizons, man, as we kind of wrap this up? Like what's
Um,
next on the
February
docket?
February kicks off with a few shows. Two Cow, and then Vanessa and I are opening in March. We're opening for doing a
Oh,
show with Dave Hawes and William Elliott Whitmore,
oh, cool.
and then a run through the Midwest. Vanessa and I do a run through the Midwest in March. A few little things in April and May. We're taking the band out. Vanessa and I are taking the band out for the first time, so it's scary and going to be difficult, but we're really excited. And we just confirmed Chicago about 4 minutes ago, so that's good.
Cool,
Um,
man. That's great.
yeah, booking
All
into
right.
June and all that now.
Yeah. And so what's the best place for people to find out all of the information?
MicahSchnabel.com. Yeah, that's an easy place. VanessaJeanSpeckman.com. Either one of those will take you to all the goods and where you want to be.
Cool, man. All right. Well, I think we did it. How do you feel?
Feel great, man. Thank you so much for having me, James, and sitting and talking about this. This was really nice, man.
Yeah, man, it's just been nice to get some time to sit with you like one on one.
Yeah, vice
Finally.
versa, man. And hopefully we'll see you at the parlor. You might end up playing the show. We'll see.
Maybe. I hope so. That'd be great, man.
Yeah.
I'd be honored. I didn't get to play with you this past time, so it'd be great to be able to share a stage again.
I'll be talking to your booking agent soon.
I'll answer that email shortly.